Good evening. Back with another tackle talk. Yeah, I'm not going to wear Hawkeye stuff this time after their performance against UCLA last week. Yeah, that was a tough one. But anyway, enough college football talk, as much as I love college football. I've got, I had a good response with the box breakdown tackle talk, so I figured since the early fall did well, I'll do one for the late fall and just kind of run down all the stuff that I'm taking along with me for these late fall adventures, which I'm kind of considering, you know, the last couple weeks of October through ice up. Basically, I'll have all of this stuff with me because there's going to be a lot of times we're going to be casting, there's going to be a lot of times where we're going to be jigging. Not so much trolling, because a lot of the lakes that that I like to target this time of year are not super conducive for that. So without further ado, I'm just going to start running them down, and yeah, we'll just get into it. I've kind of got my two boxes in separate kind of modes. We've got the plastic and we've got the hard baits. So I've got the hard baits laid out right now, so I'm just going to start with those. I'll just go with one of my standbys at this point, the new curly tail Ridge. This thing pretty much just doesn't even leave my box at this point. These things are awesome. I really like them. My buddy Connor just crushed a giant one on a 7-inch twitch bait up in Minnesota. So again, you know, sometimes having something a little bit smaller to offer in the fall isn't necessarily the worst thing that you can do. And if they don't want the smaller stuff, you always got the bigger ridges too. So this is the 9-inch in the crappie pattern. I really like his night eye, especially if you get one of those days where it's that kind of high skies, which normally isn't a good thing, but this time of year it can add a little bit of warmth to the water, bring those fish up into maybe a shallower positioning or around places that are more likely to hold those fish and hold some of that heat. And then on top of that, I really like the flash on those sunny days, because I feel like that flash really helps to draw those fish in. So anyway, that's kind of my thinking with the night eye. Moving on, and in kind of that same vein, same thinking, like the dipstick. I've got the dipstick XL. It's actually in my box right now. That doesn't ever leave. This is the jointed dipstick. I really like this one. It has kind of a unique action. It's just something dive and rise that those fish don't really see. The reason I'm putting this one in my box for Iowa right now is because some of those timber lakes, you know, the XL gets a little deeper than your standard dive and rise, and if it gets hung up, the last thing I want to do is lose a priceless lure to a tree. So this one suspends well, but doesn't get quite as deep. So there's definitely some places and some applications for this. Also, I mean, how often do you see a jointed dive and rise lure? Or how often do the musky see a jointed dive and rise lure? Not that I'd really categorize that as a dive and rise, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the dipsticks are kind of just their own thing at this point. So there's that. Speaking of dive and rise lures that aren't really dive and rise lures, this time of year I always have a Musky Innovations Dying Dog with me. I mean, it's kind of a cool bait. It's got a really unique action to it, and it does call fish in. I've had some success with them in the past, not a ton. But again, it's one of those things that I probably should lean on more than I do. And I know Chase Gibson, some of those guys like to put a weight here. I've always got weights with me, so that's always an option. I did upgrade that front hook to a BKK 5/0. So I know a lot of, I get comments a lot of times about what kind of hooks I use and why. And I guess comment below if you want me to do a tackle talk on hooks and the hooks that I use, the leaders that I use, why I use them. I did one a few years back, but it probably wouldn't hurt to revisit that conversation. Okay, Moving on, we've got another kind of hybrid twitch. I grabbed one of my ZKOs to put in my late fall box. I know that these get a lot deeper than your average kind of swim bait, your average dive and rise / twitch bait. So it never hurts to have those along with if you're doing anything with like a dam situation, or maybe trying to hit some of like a deeper rock pile or deeper submerged structure. Never hurts to have a bait that gets down there and stays down there. Speaking of which, another one that does that in the same vein is these are the bobsleds from Buckhorn Baits, I believe. Yeah, Buckhorn Baits. This is a special one that is unique to me. Well, unique to KV. KV pretty much gave this to me on permanent loan, and this is not a color run he does very often. This is the Shoe Pack Nation color. So again, this has got the BKKs on it. I really like these. I think my buddy KV has his biggest muskie on one of these. They just get a little deeper. They have the same kind of shimmy as a Suic. They don't throw quite as much light because they don't have the tail fin. But at the same time, it's one of those deals where that may not necessarily be a bad thing in some applications. Who knows? I guess you gotta kind of let the fish tell you. So moving on to other cool dive and rise lures, we've got the Bucko 10-inch, and even though it's only 10 inches, it moves a ton of water and just occupies a ton of space down there. Very similar to kind of a bar fighter. It's got a lot of body roll, a lot of action. There's just a lot of stuff going on with it. And the 10 inches are really cool because they just move a ton of water, and this one is weighted so it just basically sits and suspends down there, which, you know, this time of year, having something that just sits in those fish's faces is just, it's awesome. It's really great. Moving on to kind of some gliders that I really like. This is Rusty's Customs. This is the 8-inch 6-sucker. In the fall, this thing goes with me everywhere. I love this thing. I also have his 6-inch fortune teller. That thing goes with me everywhere. I don't have it with me. It's in my other box, but that's okay. Rusty makes awesome lures. Something a little bit bigger in the fall. They're effortless to work, and they pull big fish. There's no doubt about it. The proof is in the pudding with those. Speaking of Rusty's Customs, we've got the Counterpunch, which this is his perch one. This one gets pretty deep. It makes a ton of noise down there. I've thrown it around some, but again, just having one of those baits that gets a lot deeper and runs down at a level that you can slow roll where those fish don't normally see baits this time of year is never a bad thing. So again, like the dam program, targeting deeper structure, whether that be like rock piles or potentially submerged timber, this is always a good option to have along. Yeah. These are awesome. My buddy Andrew has done very well on those. Back to the glides really quick. We've got a new one to my arsenal that I really, really like. I threw it around some last week. This is the Poseidon swim baits, a guy out of, I believe, Nebraska. I don't know if it's Omaha or Lincoln. I want to say Omaha. Don't quote me on it. But this guy makes an incredible, incredible lure. It's technically a bass lure, but if you watch any of DCam fishing, his videos, he catches a ton of pike and muskies on these, and some really big ones too. And I can see why after having worked it for the time that I have. I did upgrade the hooks, the split rings, so that way it was more musky ready and toothy fish ready than it would have been to begin with. But this is a really cool bait. It has some really unique stuff going on with it that I would not have guessed, and it's kind of cool to operate in that niche market of even the bass stuff. But again, this is not your average bass lure. I mean, muskies eat tons of 7-inch type stuff, so really excited to chuck that thing around more. It'll probably happen this weekend. Never hurts to have a Barbarian Piranha with you. This thing just puts off some serious vibration. It's a kind of like a metal bait similar to a shumway. I don't know why I can't, like a blade bait. I don't know why the name escapes me at this point in time, but it's just a really cool lure. It throws off a ton of vibration. It sinks super fast. It's got a really interesting profile, and like I can't even really describe the thump to this thing in an adequate way. I mean, the thing just throws off a very unique signal down there. Catches big fish. It's another one I need to throw more, but I have it with me for fall jigging. You know, you can troll them behind the boat, I've been told, and you can also cast them. So yeah, these things are really interesting as a blade bait. Very unique. And yeah, the proof's in the pudding. The paint jobs are awesome. Alex does a wonderful job with all of those. Obviously, you can't talk late fall without talking blades. So I've got a Dadson double 13 here. That has had some action, no fish yet, but I don't think you'd be doing yourself a service if you went into like the later fall without a blade, like a double 13s or something like that to slow roll. I think that's probably one of the more underutilized presentations out there, especially when it comes to fall time fishing. I know my buddy Ben has had some serious luck with big blades and slow rolling them later in the fall. I have as well. This season the slow rolling program hasn't been as good as normal, but then again this season the bucktail program hasn't been as good as normal. So it's just one of those things that you just definitely want to have with you when you go out. Last out of the hard baits, thank you to Jay, one of my musky mentors, for turning me on to the 12-inch bobbies. This one does have a couple fish on it. It's just like, I don't know, there's just something about him. Jay has caught probably more muskies on these than anyone else, because probably he's the one who throws 12-inch bobbies more than anyone else. And they are just a killer bait. I'm glad he turned me on to them. And just having something in that sort of profile for this time of year never hurts. All right, so that's the hard baits. Now we got to get on to the soft baits. So I'm gonna like take a pause for the cause here, clean up my mess, get the other mess ready, and then we'll just roll into the soft baits. Okay, so we've got a lot to run down on the plastic side of things, and that's okay. I'll kind of just like do it by brand maybe, or by category. I'm not really sure. There's a lot here. I kind of got carried away as I was like prepping this, but that's okay. All of these baits are awesome. They do awesome things. So all right, that being said, I'm gonna just dive right into the different types of baits, the different types of lures. So we got, I mean, you just gotta have it with you, right, in the late fall. The Bam Bam Bowfin, the regular size. I have the juniors as well, but this is an example of a reg. I've got 3 different reg colors with me, actually. This one I stole the hooks from, but it's okay. He'll be all right. So we've got, you know, a couple of regs, different regs for different types of watercolor, clarity, all those different things. Yeah, put those down here for now. They will likely emerge this weekend. I can't imagine that they won't, actually. So, also with the Bam Bams, you gotta go with the juniors. This is kind of a silvery, crappie, Cisco-y color. The juniors are awesome. They have great hang time. I've had really good success with them this year. This one is sad to me because we kind of came up short on the big pond with it, but that's okay. It wasn't the bait's fault. The fish just missed it. Anyway, that's besides the point. But you know, you can't go wrong with the juniors. Kind of subtle, some serious hang time. They do what they're supposed to down there, and they get fish to move. In the late fall, I don't go anywhere without helidogs. And I know, they don't get thrown a lot, which is good. That's why I like them. This one actually got me my last fish last year. This big honkin' mag heli. But why I really like the heli dogs is because basically that blade allows that bait to suspend just a little bit longer, and it kind of keeps that action kind of condensed. It's not all over the place, it's just kind of doing its thing in a more concise and like concentrated space. So it gives those fish time to kind of hone in on what's going on there. And this one, you know, my dad has done very well on this one. I can't catch anything on this one, but my dad can, which if you've watched any of my videos, should come as no shock or surprise to any of you. So those are the heli dogs. That's why I use them. They also kind of, at times, like they will ride higher in the water column, so then I don't have to worry quite as much about them getting hung up in like trees and those kinds of things, if that's gonna be a problem. Next on the list, I wouldn't be anything without my mid-deuces alongside me. This one got me a really good one a couple of Halloweens ago, and you just always gotta have lemon drop. Shout out Trevor, thank you for getting me a few more of these. You are the freaking man. So yeah, lemon drop is always in the boat. I mean, obviously, you know, here I've got a reg Deusa in lemon drop. That's probably gonna get thrown this weekend. So, I mean, just watch my videos. The Deusas have just been doing so good for me over the last couple of years. I pretty much just don't go anywhere without them, whether it's the spring or the fall. They're just a staple, and they just catch fish. That's all there is to it. So those are the Deusas that I have with me on the plastic side of things. I really like those. So the next couple things would be swim baits. Swim baits are really effective in the fall. I've had success on them. Others have had success on them. In fact, this one here, this Mag Shallow dog, my dad had a really nice fish roll on a couple weeks ago. I think that was the first week of November, and it just missed. And it was really sad because we all saw how big it was. So we only got one shot that day, and it was the right one. It messed up. So swim baits, super effective in the fall. I've got this other one from, I think, Trophy Systems Bait Co., I think is the name of this guy, in Minnesota. Super cool bait. Has a lot of tail kick and wiggle. It's very subtle, but yet kind of loud down there. I need to experiment with them more. I know Alex McLean has been crushing on some of the bigger models of these. This one's only the 10-inch. But I know that he makes them up to, I think, 15 inches. So, hey, you know, try and match the hatch and the forage for the fall. Hopefully good things will happen. My last but not least on the list would be my jigging baits. So this is a modified Chaos Tackle Pegasus that I've put a blade on the back similar to a Bondi. I've had some success with jigging, just not a ton. I actually have not ever caught a fish jigging. I'm still waiting on that to happen. I've seen several chase down my bait on live scope. You know, Barry loves his Bondis. They're just the simplest, you know, kind of jigging bait, but they get the job done. There's been giants caught on them every single year. Here's a mini. I was rocking a bunch last week because Barry was rocking a bigger Bondi, so I was like, well, we'll try a smaller one and see if that one doesn't get bit. And, well, it didn't. But that's besides the point. We will continue to try and jig and continue to try and catch fish. But overall, those are the baits that I have with me at all times during this later fall to ice up period. You'll notice some bigger baits, and you'll notice some just normal size baits. Trial and error is key, but the problem is you just got to make the most of the windows when you get them, and the shots when they give them to you, because there's not going to be a ton of them, and those windows are going to just keep getting narrower and narrower and narrower. So again, that's what I'm rocking. I hope that some of that info maybe helps you guys out at home and helps kind of break down some of, you know, the choices that are out there, because there are so many awesome baits, awesome lures to choose from. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate that you appreciate the Tackle Talks. And let me know if there's a different tackle talk subject you want me to cover. Just drop it in the comments below. And with that being said, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.